Welcome back to the Maths Guy. I am the Maths Guy, my name is Matt, and today we are going to be starting a brand new series of lessons. This is the Year 5 or Grade 4 if you're in America series. And this series is going to be split into 10 lessons. Today we're going to be doing lesson 1, which is addition and subtraction. So what do we need to know before we can jump into looking at addition and subtraction? Well, there's two important things we need to make sure we understand before we can begin this lesson. The first is understanding what a multi-digit is. So a single digit is all the numbers from 1 to 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They are all single digits. They're on their own. They're single. When we get past 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on, they are all multi-digits. So 19 is a multi-digit, but 1,000,001 is also a multi-digit. Multi meaning multiple, meaning more than one. The second thing we need to understand is how to create our place value chart so that we can create our columns for when we're using our addition and subtraction methods later. So hopefully you've seen a place value chart before with our ones, sometimes called units or singles, but today in our lessons we're going to be calling them ones. Ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, million, etc., etc., etc. Understanding this place value chart is going to be super important today because we will be using it in our column methods. Now we're going to approach these lessons with looking at different stages. The stages correspond to the difficulty level of the question. So obviously we're going to start with stage 1, and most times we're going to have stage 1, 2, 3 or 4, but sometimes we might even have further than that in later lessons to come. But today we're going to focus on 3 stages for addition and 3 stages for subtraction. We're going to look at addition first of all today, so let's waste no more time and let's jump straight in to stage 1, addition. Here we go. Okay, so a good stage 1 question could look like this. We have 358, add 231. I'm sure this is a question you will have seen in Year 5 or Grade 4 at school. So what do we need to do first? Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to organize our work neatly. We are going to be proper mathematicians today. We're going to do everything really thoroughly to avoid making any small mistakes. So the first thing I want to do is put out my ones, tens, and hundreds. By doing this, it helps me put my numbers into their correct column. Which we've done that, we can put our numbers into the correct place. So looking at my 358, I can see I have 8 ones, 5 tens, and 3 hundreds. So I can put those in the right places. And then looking at my 231, I can see I have 1 1, 3 tens, and 2 hundreds. Now, where to begin? I've set my work up, now I can start to answer it. We're going to use a phrase now that hopefully we'll use throughout this whole unit, and that is start with the smallest value. We don't always start with our ones, so we don't want to say we start with our ones. We're going to start with the smallest value, and in this case our ones are the smallest value. So here we go. Now I can break it down step by step. 8 add 1. Now if I want to, I could use my hands and I could put 5, 6, 7, 8, and I could add another 1, count it up, and I know I have 9, or I could just use my mental maths and I know that 8 add 1 is 9. 9 goes into the 1 column, 9 ones. In the tens I have 5 and a 3, so it's not really a 5 and a 3, it's actually a 50 and a 30. Because I have 5 tens and 3 tens, and I'm adding them together. But when we see them in this column place value chart, it looks just like a 5 and a 3, but it's really important to understand that that is actually 5 tens and 3 tens, because I'm adding up my tens column. So 5 and 3, again, I could use my fingers, equals 8, or I could use my mental maths, 5 and 3 is 8. Moving over to my hundreds column, remember I'm going from the smallest value to the largest, so this is now my largest column. I have 3 hundreds and I'm adding 2 hundreds, so I'm not just adding 3 and 2, but because of the way it's shown in this column, I can just add 3 and 2. 3 and 2 equals 5, 5 hundreds, put 5 in the hundreds column, leaving my total answer for this stage 1 question, 589. Give yourselves a massive high five if you got that right before me. Now I'm sure you're thinking, that's really easy, Maths Guy. How can we make this harder? Well, we're going to talk a bit about stage one and where stage one could grow into. So I'm going to give you another question, and I would say it's a similar difficulty to the one we just had, but it has got a little quirk, a little extra thing we have to think about. So I'm going to say, what is the answer to 812 add 36? So first things first again, let's lay out our place value chart so that we can set up our column addition. So I've got ones, tens and hundreds, put them in the correct place, and then I can look at my 812, realize I have 2 ones, 1 10 and 8 hundreds, put them in the correct places. But then I can look at 36 and I can see that I have a different amount of digits in this number. In 812 I have 3 digits, but in 36 I just have 2 digits. And a very common mistake that I see when I'm teaching is I see students try and put that 36 over here. Well, what happens if I put that 36 here? Is that okay? No, of course it's not, because what we've done there is we've said that the 3, which is actually a 30, is now a 300. We've changed the number completely. We can't do that. So stop. Let's think about this logically. 36. I have 6 ones, so I have to put my 6 in the ones column. And I have 3 tens, so I have to put my 3 in the tens column. So it'll look a little bit like this. But we have this big gap now underneath the 8. What could we put here? That's right, we're going to put a placeholder, a 0 that has no value because it's not changed the value of my number 36. I could put a million zeros in front of 36 and it's not going to change the value of my 36. But what it does do is it tidies up my place value chart and my column method so that I'm ready to now add up. Okay, so now we can begin. And this is very similar now to the question we just had. Let's start in our ones column or our smallest value, because remember, we always start in our smallest value. And I've got 2 added to 6. Well, 2 add 6 is 8. Then I move across to my tens column and I can see I have 1 10 add 3 tens equals 4 tens. And then now in my hundreds column, I can see I've got 8 hundreds add no hundreds, so that leaves me with 800. So therefore, my final answer is 848. And there you go. Amazing. If you've just understood that, that means you are stage 1 certified addition solver. Now I'm going to give you 3 questions on the screen now. I want you to press pause, have a go at these 3 questions and see how you get on. If you get them all right, excellent, move to stage 2. If you make a mistake, even in one, I want you to go back to the start of stage 1 and watch it again and see where you made your mistake and see if you can correct it for the next round. Because remember, we don't want to move on before we've got a really good understanding of the previous stage. Okay, so here we go. 3 questions coming up on the board. Press pause, take all the time you want to try and answer them, and when you're ready for the answer, press play again. 3 questions now. Awesome, how did you get on? I'm assuming if I'm seeing you now, it means you've got all 3 questions correct. Very well done for that, high five. Let's move on to stage 2. Okay, so let's consider what stage 2 could be. How could we make these kind of questions harder? Okay, some of you might be thinking, well, let's make the numbers bigger. Let's have a number like 865,221 add 123,440. But is that actually harder, or is it just longer? And this is another phrase we're going to use a little bit. Is it harder or is it just longer? Because I think this is still quite easy. Let's set it up in our place value chart just like before. All we now need to do is add some extra columns. So instead of just having 1, 10s and hundreds, we're now going to have 1s, 10s, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s. Okay, let's lay up our numbers just like before. Excellent, and we're ready to begin. I think it's pretty straightforward. Start with our smallest value, in this case our ones. Here we go. 1 add 0 is 1. 2 add 4 is 6. Another 2 add 4 is 6. 5 and 3 is 8. 6 and 2 is 8. And then 8 and 1 is 9. And there we go. We've got our answer, 988,661. So I don't think that was any harder. I think it was just longer. So what could we do to make this harder? Okay, well what if I gave you this question? 14 add 17. Looks easy, right? Actually looks easier than the last questions. But there's a detail in here, a feature, that's actually difficult and something we really need to think about and understand before we can move on any further. So let's have a look. I'm going to set it up just like before, but this time I've only got 1s and 10s. So I'm going to put my 1s and 10s in my correct place, and then I'm going to put my numbers in the correct columns. So 14 I have 4 1s and 1 10, and 17 I have 7 1s and 1 10. Now I can begin. Okay, here we go. Ready? First column, smallest value, 4 plus 7. 4 plus 7 equals 11. We've got a double digit. Our answer is a multi-digit. We've not had that before. What do we do? Well, let's have a think. Let's break down our answer and look at it. What does it actually represent? We have 11. So we've actually got a 1 1 and 1 10. So why can't we say we've done our 1s column, so we know we're not going to have any more 1s to add up, and I've got 1 1 here. So I'm going to put my 1 1 into that column, and then my 1 10 I'm going to add to my 10s column. But I'm not going to put it here in the answer box because it's not finished. I've not answered my 10s, so I'm going to put it here in the question section, which therefore makes me think about something. So far I've been setting my numbers out so that I have my 14 and my 17 and then my answer lines. But now that I've got some things that I'm carrying over, new little term, carrying over into the next column, maybe it's worth adding a separate row. And by adding that extra row, what it means is that when I put my 1 10 that I'm carrying across, I'm not squeezing it in somewhere. I know that when I was at school, I used to just squeeze it in. And I see students do it all the time. But what happens then is you forget it's there. You can't even see it. So we want to give it its own row. So let's get used to, when we're setting up our column method now, we're going to leave that row just in case we've got things to carry over. Okay, so let's have a look again then. So I've got my 1 in my 1's answer column, and I've now put my 1 10 that I had from that section into the question section of my column method. Now, when I look at my 10s, I can see I have 1, 2, and my new third 10, leaving me with an answer of 3 10s. So 14 add 17 is 31. That's definitely a bit trickier and well worthy of stage 2. Did you understand that? If not, go back and watch that little section again because that's really important. If you did, let's move into a different question. Let's have a look at another stage 2 question. Okay, let's get into some bigger numbers then. Let's have a look at 358 add 263. And I'm going to just give you a heads up. This is even harder than the last one, but it's still stage 2. So let's put them into the correct columns then. Let's put our columns in place, 1s, 10s and 100s. I've got 358, which means I've got 8 1s, 5 10s and 3 100s. And then in 263, I've got 3 1s, 6 10s and 2 100s. Now I'm ready to begin. Always start with my smallest value. That means adding 8 to 3. And again, that leaves me with a multi-digit. 8 to 3 is 11. So I'm going to look at my 11 again, and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to analyze that I think there's now 1 1 and 1 10. So therefore I can put my 1 in the answer column because I've done my 1s, and I'm going to put my 1 10 in the new row that we leave in the 10s column. So now when I look at the 10s column, I have a 5, a 6 and a 1. So let's add those up. 5 and 6 is 11, plus 1 is 12. Oh, wait a minute. I've got another multi-digit. Is that okay? Can I do that? Absolutely. We're going to just do exactly what we did before. So now I look at the answer of 12, which is actually 12 10s. 12 10s being 120. So the answer to 50 add 60 plus 10, which is what that column actually represents, equals 120. So then when I break it down, I can see, okay, I have 2 tens, so I can put that into my tens column, but I have 1 100, so I can carry that across into my hundreds column. It's really important we understand exactly what we're doing. A lot of people just remember that we have to carry it, so they just carry it without really understanding what they're doing. And then when they come to a question they don't really understand, they have no solution or understanding to help them get through it. So understanding what's happening when we're adding a 5, a 6 and a 1 in the tens column, that we're not actually adding single digits, we're actually adding a 50, a 60 and a 10, which gives us 120. Understanding that means that you've got a good understanding of stage 2. So 50 and 60 and 10 is 120, or 12. Put 1 into my hundreds column, 2 into my tens column, and I'm ready to now look at my hundreds. So in my hundreds column now I have a 3, a 2 and a 1. A 300, a 200 and a 100. 3 and 2 add 1 is 6, leaving my answer 621. 358 plus 263 is 621. Wow, that was a really difficult stage 2 one. Well done if you got that right. Now let's have a look at where stage 2 could go, where it could get a little bit more complicated, just so we understand all of stage 2 before we move on. So where could stage 2 go? Well, we could have a question like this. 1,189 add 446. Why is that a little different? Well, it's that same thing that we had in stage 1, where we've now got different amount of digits in our question. In 1,189, I have 4 digits. But in 446, I only have 3 digits. So making sure that we're putting these into the correct columns is our most important thing here. So let's have a look at 1,189 and let's put in our place values. So we're gonna have ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. So how many ones do we have? We have 9. How many tens? We have 8. How many hundreds? 1. And how many thousands? 1. Now let's look at our 446. I'm going to put it here. Is that right? No! Stop, Mr. Maths guy. That's not right. Why is that not right? Well, because we've now made all of our numbers 10 times larger. In 446, we only have 400, and we've now made it 4,000. Crazy. And we've done the same to the tens and the same to the ones. So we can't do that. We need to put them into the correct columns. So 446, how many ones do I have? I have 6. Let's put that in the ones column. How many tens do I have? I have 4. Put it into the tens column. And then how many hundreds do I have? I have another 4. Put it into the hundreds column. Okay, but before we can begin our question, we've got this gap again. What do we put in the gap? That's right, a placeholder. A 0 that doesn't change the value of 446, but makes our organization look nice and neat. And it's going to become really helpful when we get into subtraction later. You'll understand that when we get there. Now I'm ready to begin. And let's start from our smallest value, just like normal. And I have 9 plus 6. 9 plus 6 is 15, which is actually 5 ones and 1 10. So I can put my 5 ones in the ones column, and I'm going to carry my 1 10 into the question part of the tens columns. Now in my tens column I have 8, a 4 and a 1. 8, 4 and 1 is 13. Therefore I have 3 tens and 1 100. I have 13, or actually what I was doing was adding an 80 to a 40 to a 10, which left me with 130. So I can put my 1 into my 100s column and my 3, my 30 into the tens column. Now I look at the hundreds columns, I have a 1, a 4 and a 1. 1 plus 4 plus 1 is 6. Put the 6 in the hundreds column. And then now I look into my thousands, and because of my placeholder, I have a 1 add a 0 equals a 1. Therefore 1,189 plus 446 equals 1,635. Okay, before we move on, I just want to show you another little detail, another little thing that can happen in our stage 2s that can be a little bit harder to understand. So let's have a look at it together. What if I gave you the question 326 add 913? Let's skip ahead and let's put them into the correct places like we know how to do now. Okay, and let's begin. I'm going to start with my smallest value. So I'm going to start by adding 6 to 3. That equals 9. Then I'm going to move to my next smallest value, my tens, and I'm going to add 2 to 1, or 20 to 10, leaving me 3 or 30. Then I'm going to look at my hundreds column, and I can see I have 3 add 9. When I add 3 to 9, I get 12, or I get 1,000 and 2 hundreds. So what do I do here? Because I have nothing else in my thousands. Well, you've got a couple of choices. You could either carry it across and make a new column, or you could just put it in the answer row in the thousands column, because we've got nothing else to add to it, so we know that's going to be the answer anyway. So when we're adding up our last column, if we have something to carry across, we can just put that number automatically in the answer row, because we know there's nothing else to add up to it. That's another little detail that can sometimes throw people. Okay, I'm going to put 3 new questions on the board that are going to be stage 2 questions. If you get all these right, amazing, you're ready to now move on to stage 3. If you don't get them right, go back to the start of this stage 2 section, rewatch it, and think about where you made your mistakes in your question. Remember, mistakes are always part of the learning process, and being able to find our mistakes is really important. If I can find a mistake and correct it, that's almost better than just being able to do it straight away, because it means that you've analyzed it now, and being able to analyze something is a really high level of learning. So if you didn't get it right, go back, have a look, see where you made your mistakes. If you do get all 3 right, then I'll see you in stage 3 in a minute. Okay, you ready? Good luck. Okay, if I'm seeing you here, it means that you've got the last 3 questions correct at the end of our stage 2. If you did that, that's amazing, really well done. If you are confident with stage 2 addition, you are a really solid year 5 student. Now let's look at what we could do to be an advanced student, the top of the class. This is stage 3. So what could stage 3 be? How could we make this even harder? Should we just make the numbers bigger? Let's have 1,436,989 add 2,642,432. Is that any harder, or is it just longer? I think it's just longer. There's nothing else in there that's going to make it harder for us. So let's solve it really quickly. First column, the smallest value, is our ones column. 9 add 2 is 11. Carry the 1 across for our extra 10. And we have 8 add 3 add 1 in the tens column. 8 add 3 add 1 is 12, or 120. So I'm going to carry my 100 into the hundreds column. Now we have our hundreds column. 9 add 4 add our new 1 is 13 again, or 1,300. So I'm going to add my 1,000 to the thousands column. 6 add 2 plus my 1 is 9, 9,000s. In my 10,000s I have 3 and a 4, therefore we have 7 10,000s. In my 100,000s I have a 4 and a 6. 4 and 6 is 10, so I have 1,000,000 and 0 100,000s. And now in my millions column I have a 1, a 2, and the 1 we've just carried across, leaving me 4 million. So my answer is 4,079,321. Not much harder, just a lot longer. So how can it get harder? Okay, here we go. I'm going to give you a different question. What if I said I wanted you to add 32 plus 45? But it's not just 32 and it's not just 45, it's 32.4 and 45.2. Dun dun dun! Oh dear, this is new. Now we are looking at decimals, a digit that comes after a decimal point and after our ones. So in my number 32.4, I still have 2 ones and I still have 3 tens, like I would do if I had just the number 32. But now I have another little part, a decimal, a fraction, a part of another number. Not quite a 1, not quite making it 33, but a decimal that still needs adding. So where do we put it? Well, that's right, we're just going to add another column, but this time our columns are going to come the other way. Remember I said we don't always start with our ones? Well, here is why. because sometimes we have decimals, and decimals are even smaller than ones, so therefore we need to add those first because they will have a smaller value. Okay, so how are we going to lay this out properly then? Well, I'm going to add the decimal point to my titles at the top of my place value. So now I've got a decimal, one, tens and hundreds, and then the column next to the decimal point is going to become the tenths column. Okay, this is the tenths column. The next column would be the hundreds column, then the thousands, 10,000, and so on and so on. Okay, because this column represents 10 parts of one number. So in here we have 4 tenths of 1. Okay, so let's put our numbers in the correct places. 32.4, I have 4 tenths. I'm going to put my decimal point in the correct place. I have 2 ones and I have 3 tens. In my 45.2, I have 2 tenths. I'm going to put my decimal point in the correct place, 5 ones and 4 tens. And now I'm ready to begin. And what do? That's right, we start at our smallest value. And in this case, our tenths column is our smallest value. So let's begin. 4 tenths add 2 tenths equals 6 tenths. Now, here's a really important detail. I'm going to make sure at this point I put my decimal point in. If I don't put my decimal, I could forget it and change the whole value of the number later. So it's really important I put that in now. Let's do it together. Boom. Now I'm ready to add up my ones column. I have 2 ones added to 5 ones equals 7 ones. Now I can do my tens column. 3 tens plus 4 tens is 7 tens. So therefore my answer is 77.6. That point is really important. Let's imagine we forgot to put that point in there, the decimal point. Let's take it away. What's my answer now? Well, it looks a lot like 776, which is way bigger than the correct answer of 77.6. So that decimal is really, really important and something we must not ever forget. I also want to stop and have a look at something. If you see, all of our decimals are all in one perfect line. That's a clear indicator that I've set this question up correctly and I've answered it correctly. If your decimal points are in different places, that probably means you've made a mistake and you're probably going to get the wrong answer. So really make sure your decimal points are in the right place before you start. Okay, let's have a look at where stage 3 could go. Let's have a look at the question 33.04 add 26.1. Now I can see straight away that this is a bit different because, again, I have a different amount of digits in each question, but specifically I have a different amount of numbers after my decimal point. In 33.04 I have 2 digits after my decimal point, and in 26.1 I only have 1 digit. So it's really important that we begin to understand how to set up this question. I see so many people not understanding how to lay this out now. And it's not much harder really than everything else we've been doing. The first thing to do is to make sure we always put our titles at the top, so that therefore we cannot make a mistake. So let's begin by putting our ones and tens. We know we have ones and tens. We also know that we have a decimal point and we have tenths. But in this question now we're going to have hundredths because we have a 0.4 in my 33. Good. Now I'm ready to put my numbers in place. Well, I always like to start with my ones. So in 33.04 I still have 3 ones. So I'm going to put that in the right place, and I have 3 tens. I'm going to put that in the right place. Now I'm going to put my decimal in the right place, and then I'm going to realize that I have 0 tenths and 4 100ths. Put those into the correct place. Does my number still read 33.04? Yes, that's a good sign that I'm on the right lines. Now I'm ready to put my 26.1, and again I'm going to start with my ones. I've got 6 ones, and then I'm going to do my tens. I have 2 tens, and now I can look at my decimal, put the decimal point in, and see that I have 1 tenth. But now I have this gap again. What could I do here? That's right, put a placeholder. So I'm going to put this placeholder. Again, it does not change the value of this number, 26.1. It was the same as saying 26.10. It's the same as saying 26.100000 forever. It doesn't change the value. Okay, so now I'm ready to begin. Again, I'm going to start with my smallest value. In this case, it's now hundredths. So 4 plus 0 is 4. I have 4 hundredths. Now I'm ready to do my tenths, and I can see that I have 0 tenths, add 1 tenth, that equals 1 tenth. Really important I put my decimal point back. Here we go, excellent. And I can already see they're in the right line. That's a great sign. After that, I can do my ones, and I can do 3 ones, add 6 ones equals 9 ones. And then last but not least, I can do my tens. 3 tens, add 2 tens equals 5 tens. Leaving me with an answer of 59.14. Excellent. If you can do that, and if you understand that, you are an amazing Year 5 mathematician. Okay, now I'm going to show you as hard as this can get. The hardest stage 3 that we can possibly get. You ready? Let's have a look. Okay, what if I gave you the question 475.1 add 39.35? Let's analyze this and see why this is so difficult. Well, I can see we have a different amount of digits after the decimal place. In my 475.1, I only have 1 digit after the decimal place, whereas in my 39.35, I have 2 digits after the decimal place. But I also have different amounts of digits before the decimal place. In 475, I have 3 digits, and in 39, I have 2 digits before the decimal. So we're going to need more placeholders this time. I can also see that we're going to have to carry some of these columns. So this is as hard as stage 3 can get. If you can get this, you can do everything with addition in Year 5. Okay, let's begin. I'm going to set up my place value chart in my column method. So I can see that I need my ones, tens and hundreds, but I can also see I'm going to need tenths and 100ths after my decimal place. Now let's look at 475.1 and understand I have 5 ones, 7 tens, 4 100ths, and a decimal point, and after the decimal I have a 1/10. Great, I've put that in the right place. Now I'm ready for 39.35. Well, 39 is made up of 9 ones and 3 tens. I can put those in the right place. I can put my decimal now, and I can see they're already starting to line up. Great. And now I see I have 3 tenths and 5 100ths. Awesome. But look, now I have 2 gaps. What could I put there? That's right, placeholders. Let's get them in. Awesome, now we're ready to start. We always start with our smallest value, so here we go. 0, add 5. We always start with our smallest value, which is now our 100ths column, and I'm going to add 0 to 5, which gives me 5. Now in my tenths column, I can add my 1 to my 3, that gives me 4. And now it's really important that I put my decimal in place, and I can see that they're all still in line. Give myself a big tick, I'm already getting things right. Now I get to my ones column, and I have 5 ones, add 9 ones equals 14 ones, or 4 ones and 1/10. So I'm going to carry the 10 across. And now I can see in my tens column, I have 7 tens, add 3 tens, add 1/10 equals 11 tens, or 110. So I'm going to put my 10 in place, and I'm going to carry my 100. And now in my hundreds column, I can see that I have a 400, add 100, which now equals 500. So my answer is 514.45. Whoa, that is amazing. If you have just understood that, you are a legend, because you now understand everything that Year 5 can throw at you with addition. That was all of stage 3. So before we move on to subtraction, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put 3 questions up on the board, and these are going to be difficult. So do not worry if you get these wrong. Remember, getting things wrong is just part of the learning process. If you get them wrong, go back and watch this section again, and then see where you made the mistake. Correct it, and then move on. Do not move on until you've got those 3 questions correct. If you need a little extra help, ask an adult, but really, go back and watch this section again. Okay, I'm going to see you in another moment in subtraction. Good luck with these 3 questions, guys.